What's up, guys? Unique experience today. We don't usually go on field trips, but today I'm at my transmission sponsor's facility here, local shop, TTS Transmissions. So I just wanted to kind of take you guys in, show you guys around, as well as go over the differences between the inline six and the V8 transmissions, because I think that's a big topic that a lot of people have been discussing. So let's come on in and take a look. Show you guys around real quick. You know, if you are looking for a transmission place, then TTS is definitely where you want to go if you're in the North Carolina, South Carolina area. Joe is an extremely knowledgeable individual and does a lot of work on a lot of unique projects. So as you can tell here, we've got a few things going on in the shop today. We got Joe over here. Basically just going to give you a tour of the few different things that we have going on at the same time. So right here is the IS430 bench. So all of this stuff is two transmissions completely taken apart for the IS430 and laid out. And then cool enough, over here is actually where the mr2 transmission is being finished up as well. So this is the c66 that has the has the billet gears on there. So these are the SSC billet gears, high strengthened gears. Or also everything's been cryo treated and shot peen honed. So you know, the shot peening process is supposed to help give the abrasion of the outside to help it be less brittle, and the cryo coating is supposed to help it also strengthen as well. So not only do I have the strengthened gears in here, but I also have the strengthened gears plus the OEM gears strengthened as well. We also are running these bad boys right here, which are carbon synchros. Most of this stuff can be grabbed through Monkey Wrench Racing, which is where a lot of it I got, and also Simply Sports Cars, which is SSC. That's what SSC gears stand for. So kind of cool to see it all outside of here. This is a TRD torsion limited slip, so utilizing that right here along with our SSC gears to be able to get us, you know, what would hope to be like a 4 to 500 horsepower transmission that can take, you know, a good 350, 400 pounds of torque, which, you know, is a good bit out of these transmissions, and they're not known to take a lot. So the hope is that, you know, it'll cover exactly what we need at least. So this is almost done. See, I did a nice little coating on the outside of this with some Steel It. If you haven't used Steel It before, Steel It is a wonderful weldable paint solution that works very well when, you know, you got something like a transmission that you don't want to spend a whole bunch of time coating. It coats on very, very thick and strong, and then you can also weld to the exterior of it if you ever have a problem. So yeah, not only is Joe at TTS working on the C66 for the mr2 Spider track car, but is also working on the IS430 part. So, you know, I'm keeping the automatic transmission, which this has been a topic of a lot of discussion, actually. Why keep the automatic transmission? Well, one main reason is because I, in the future, hope to go the DCT transmission route, which, you know, is going to be a pricey option. It's going to take a while to sort out all the necessary parts and do everything that's necessary to make that happen. So I'm probably going to be running the a650e, which is all of the parts here that you see, for at least a good 2 years or so before I end up going the route of the DCT. So, you know, a few things here. So I kept the auto, which does makes the swap pretty easy. There's a few things that need to be done for the swap, and I'm going to kind of go over those things in this video. So first thing is actually the tail shaft, or the end of the transmission. So right here you'll see a slip yoke style, right, and then over here you'll see the prop shaft style, right, three bolt style with the Guido or whatever they call that thing. You know, I'm not a transmission guy, so I don't know all of this stuff perfectly, but I'm trying to give you guys the best information that I have. So this is what you're going to find when you grab a V8 a650e. It's going to typically have this on there, right? For the inline six transmissions, a650e, this is what you're going to see on there. So one of the main parts of switching the transmissions out if you're wanting to run the V8 transmission is making sure that you get this tail shaft put on there, because this is what's going to hook up to your drive shaft and make life easy on you without having to get a custom drive shaft. So obviously, there's lots of different options that you can do with this, but not getting a custom drive shaft was a big thing for me, because again, you're going to be running a different transmission in the future, so I didn't want to go too crazy on this one. So I had a V8 transmission that came with the SC430 3UZ that I got, and then I had my a650e transmission that was already in the IS430. So one, you'll need this, but obviously if you need this, then the internals can't possibly be the same between those two, and that's what we're actually looking at here. So these are the internal shafts that would go inside of these casings, right? This shorter shaft is the one that would actually go with this style, so V8, right, with this end, and then here is where you have the inline 6 shaft, and that inline 6 shaft goes inside of this, which makes sense, right? Super long shaft, much longer casing, very short shaft. Short casing, short shaft. So it makes a lot of sense there. So again, you'll want this out of the inline 6 transmission, and you'll want this off of the inline 6 transmission to be able to make that swap. As far as the casings go, my other casing, my clean casing, is inside of the part washer right now. The casings are exactly the same. You're not going to see any differences between those. You might see a difference here or there, but nothing that's going to impact you using one or the other. Even if you're utilizing E-shift like I am, really all of that's inside of the electronics. It doesn't matter the transmission. The transmission can work either way. So those are kind of the main parts that you'll need to make sure to swap. But the unfortunate thing is that you literally have to pull out all of these parts to do so. And a lot of people definitely, warned me how intense this would be, swapping the internals versus just swapping the bell housing. But this transmission's super old. Didn't want to use it. Looks cruddy and crappy. The V8 transmission that I had was only 90-something thousand miles. Looks super nice. So it really made sense keeping the V8 internals, whether or not they're beefier or not, which, honestly, to me, layman's eye, the plates look to be relatively the same. So who knows? Could be different materials, and I can't see that, obviously. But, for me, swapping out the internal shaft, the casing, and making sure that I use the proper bell housing for the V8 and stuff like that was the better option for me. So I'm using the V8 casing, the V8 bell housing, because all that's going to work together, and then using inline 6 shaft, inline 6 tail house casing, and then the rest works out well. Something that hasn't been discussed much, and I'm not really sure if it matters or not, are the pans. The pans are actually different between the the inline 6 and the V8 as well. So this is the inline 6 pan. It's got a shorter length tube here, and I believe I'm going to use that just to make sure that I don't run into any problems. The V8 one is much longer, comes out to here. Unfortunately, it's already in the car, so you won't be able to see it. A lot of people have asked if I'm doing any performance type options to this while I have it out, and realistically the torque converter for the V8 is larger, so I'm going with that torque converter, and that should definitely play a role in everything. But I'm also have a few upgraded parts that I'm also going to be installing that will kind of raise the line pressure, as well as kind of sort out some of the typical shifting issues that the a650e is known to have. So a little hard focusing in on here, but this was from a Transgo shift kit, and not only do they have a shift kit to improve, there we go, the shifts, but they also have a kit that improves the line pressure. Now, I've seen lots of different ways of doing this. I mean, shoot, I've even seen people stack change. Obviously these would be easy to make. It was a super cheap solution that I found on eBay. If you look up a650e shift kits, line pressure kits, and stuff like that, you should be able to find these. But so, you know, one is a shifter kit to improve the standard operating of the transmission, and then the other is a shifter kit to actually improve the line pressure, which is going to make things shift quicker. So long story short, is this a lot of work to just swap in a motor and keep the same drive shaft? Yeah, I mean, maybe it is a lot of work, but here's the deal. If you have snap ring pliers and you've got these tools right here, then you can legitimately do this. And any tool that you don't have, you can also rent from AutoZone and stuff like that. Now, I'm lucky enough to have Joe at TTS be super cool with allowing me to be here and working and using his space as well as his knowledge to help me out. And don't get me wrong, this C66, that's all his doing. I mean, I have taken one of these apart before, but since it's a race motor and for race applications, I really wanted him to do this and me learn on the automatic transmission. But so he's working on this 100%, and you know, he's done all the work on this. And even when it comes to the IS300 stuff, I mean, sure, I'm turning some wrenches, but let it be known that Joe is definitely the powerhouse behind this, understands how to do everything, and has all the knowledge necessary to do all this work. So end result, I think the a650e is a great swap option for the V8 if you're not worried about going manual. It's a simple swap option. Sure, you can keep your regular transmission and you can just swap over the bell housing, the oil metering pump, and I believe another part or so. But, you know, for me, having the V8 internals was very important. Having a younger, lower mile transmission, parts, etc. was important to me. You know, this sucker had like 280 something thousand miles on it. All the parts that come out of the SC430 transmission a650e that I got with the V8, all that had 98,000 miles on it. So, you know, I feel good about keeping these new fresh parts in. You can tell, I mean, these look substantially different. I mean, this looks basically brand new in my opinion, right? Look at those things compared to how dirty, right, those are. So, you know, to me, it's definitely worth it. I think it's going to be fantastic to be able to have an automatic transmission that I can still E-shift, utilizing the buttons that I've already traded out with the IS250 steering wheel, and utilizing the ECU out of the 1UZ, along with a wiring harness from the 1UZ, along with all of the sensors from the 1UZ. You can harness that E-shift, and you can have an a650e that bolts up to the 3UZ and also goes in your IS300. So, there it is. Hopefully that answers a little bit of questions. I know that I'm kind of running through it, but obviously you can pause, rewind, and go through all my jumbling to figure out exactly the information you need. But hopefully that helps you see, one, the differences between the actual shafts on the inside, not to mention the casings on the outside, not to mention the differences in the torque converters, and really the lack of differences in everything else. It's nearly identical the same. And then again, if you're looking to add a little bit of extra, then you've got these, you know, added shift kits and things that you can get off of eBay through Transgo to be able to make it a little bit more substantial, maybe a little bit more fun, engaging of a transmission to drive. But I truly think that the power that we're going to make out of the 3UZ is going to be making the car anyway. I think just having a good, easy transmission to swap in that's super cheap just made it more, I don't know, feasible to do the actual swap for me. So, you know, these a650es you can get for dirt cheap now. I mean, this one I got for like $100. The other one came with the motor, no big deal. So, you know, it's all easily obtainable if you're trying to do this swap and doing it on a, you know, on a budget. I would definitely say the end result, if you're doing this swap on a budget, it probably would make sense to just swap out the bell housing and the oil metering pump on the IS300 transmission instead of using the V8 transmission. But if you really want the most out of it, and you have both of them and all of these parts like I do, and also possibly the ability to have an educated person like a transmission shop specialist help you out, then, you know, this is certainly a way to go about it. If you have any questions or anything like that, let me know, and I'll definitely try to help you as much as possible. Otherwise, you know, definitely if you're local to North Carolina, South Carolina, you should definitely look up TTS Transmissions. Joe is extremely knowledgeable and be happy to help you out. He's got a lot of cool projects that come in and out of here. He's also just a great guy in general, so it's very cool to have him invested into the projects and be an official sponsor, and especially a local sponsor. It's always cool to be able to have more of contact with the people that are helping you out and the people that are actually investing their time and effort into your project. So definitely a cool thing. Give them some love on Instagram and stuff like that, and help them grow their business, because they're helping out grassroots people, which is, I think what we all would like to see. So not sure where this will go into the video, if this will be the only video itself or will I add more to it. I'll probably add some photos of the completely built transmission after this, show you guys and kind of go over all the details as well. But for now, that's all I've got. Alright, so we're back in the shop after visiting TTS, and we have a final result here. Looking nice and clean, which is pretty amazing. I mean, it's great what a parts cleaner can do. Just a parts cleaner alone is like a miracle to someone working in the garage. It definitely cleans things up, starts making things look super nice. So here's the a650e in all of its finished glory. You can see I've got the AN bungs, 6 AN bungs on the outside to bring the fluid up front to the cooler. That's what that bad boy's for, and its bungs are for right there. You can see that we've got the V8 bell housing, the V8 center section, and the inline 6 end adapter. So that's what actually slips into the drive shaft. So that's what I had to have converted over from the V8, as you saw in the previous video. So this is everything all put together, all cleaned up, ready to go. Some small details I wanted to add into this video to make sure we're pretty clear. I haven't seen a lot of places mentioning it, so I want to mention it. This is indeed the shifter arm off of the IS300 transmission, not the SC430 transmission. So definitely want to still have this off your IS300 transmission if you're switching it over. Another thing to mention is the pan. And I'm not really sure exactly what way to inform you. I just know I ended up going with the IS300 transmission pan, and then had to bend that little guy just a little bit to clear the bell housing. I'm hoping that's the right way to go. Obviously, I'm sure the SC430 pan would have cleared this, but I'm not sure where it would leave it inside of the car. So I'm hoping going with the IS300 transmission pan was the right way to go. Make sure to keep things, conform to the actual car's limitations and not necessarily to the transmission. So anyway, all of its glory, here it is. I'm really excited about feeling the new shifts with everything converted. We've got the line pressure increased because we turned up the switch a little bit inside of the valve body, and then we also did the valve body upgrades inside of it, which was the Transgo kit, and then we're also using the V8 torque converter, which is over here, and that bad boy weighs a big bit. All of that along with just the dependability of the a650e. I'm hoping that the transmission's a pretty fun one to shift with. Keep in mind, I also upgraded the shifters on the inside. So let's go back to that. I've mentioned that in a few videos, and again, this is something really easy to do, and there's several videos online about it. But IS250 steering wheel to kind of cap it all off to make the shifting experience a little bit more fun. So, the big question, why did I stick with the a650e? Well, to be honest with you, one of the original answers to that question is because I thought it would be easier. I'm not sure if it's easier or not. I think it's easier if you go about it in certain ways. Maybe if you keep your IS300 transmission and just switch over the bell housing and the oil pump. Maybe that's the easiest way to go about it. The way that I went about it, I think will gain the most value out of the transmission, but I think was one of the harder ways to go about the automatic swap. I think the whole appeal for most people with the automatic swap is because it's an easier swap. So, if you're going to do the easiest way, I would say IS300 transmission, a650e with a V8 bell housing and the V8 oil metering pump is probably going to be the easiest way to convert the transmission. That, and I think a lot of people take the V8 swap as a good opportunity to put in a manual transmission, which is a brilliant idea. I think that's a fantastic idea for sure. For me, it wasn't about manual transmission. I want to stay automatic. Maybe, possibly someday, a DCT transmission, which is fantastic. But wanted to keep it rather inexpensive. And again, kind of along with the traits of the 3UZ engine, is that the a650e transmissions are super inexpensive. So even in all the work that I did back and forth getting this thing together, it was still super inexpensive, just because anytime you go to pick up one, you're looking at $100 to $200 max for a transmission. So, put in a good rebuild kit, get the Transgo kit, get the line pressure increase kit, or just stack some quarters or some pennies, as one of those videos on YouTube says, and then bam, you've got yourself a fairly good, capable automatic transmission. I think online they say they're good for about 500-600 horsepower. Hey, that's fantastic. That's still great power out of this setup, and for the ease of swap, no changing of the drive shafts and no things like that. I'm pretty happy. So time to get it in now. Time to attach it to the engine, drop everything inside. That video is going to be coming up real soon. I'm sure I'll do another video about just the general full scale of everything we've done to the motor, and a little recap before we actually drop everything in. But we are dangerously close to having that on there and that in here, which will be very, very exciting. So stay tuned, more coming.